Chapter 121. Shocking. Xiaji is actually a cross-dressing expert? Nagini raised her own hand and examined it carefully. Then she lifted the coat Xiaji had draped over her to inspect her body. Finally, she began to laugh, tears streaming down her face. All the suffering she'd endured over the years finally came to an end today. Nagini wept with joy. I'm human again. After integrating the memories from her time as a giant serpent, Nagini felt as though she'd personally lived through those decades of hardship and barbaric existence. Or rather, these truly were her own experiences. She'd simply just now recalled them, much like how Xiaji had remembered his own past torment. Just as Xiaji now refused to revisit those painful memories and vowed never to let anyone harm him again, Nagini too had no desire to turn back into a snake. She wanted to live on as a human being. Even though Xiaji had completely removed her blood curse beastman curse, she could now freely switch between her serpentine form and human form at will. Yet in her excitement, Nagini ended up ruining another clean handkerchief of Xiaji's. She was happy, sure, but why wipe her clothes with it? Though Xiaji himself was utterly chaste, kind-hearted, and cheerful by nature, he was still a guy after all. Thank you, Xiaji. Nagini expressed her deepest gratitude to him. Are you hurt? Did I accidentally harm you just now? Nagini suddenly noticed the blood-stained handkerchief in Xiaji's hand. Alarmed, she struggled to stand up, eager to check on him. Xiaji had just been removing the curse from her. The thought of him possibly sustaining any injury left her utterly distraught. Now fully restored to human form, Nagini once again resembled the beautiful, gentle girl she'd once been, no longer just a cold, lifeless serpent. It's all right. Please don't stand up, Xiaji said awkwardly. Nagini's earlier struggle had caused the coat covering her to slide down. Xiaji realized he could no longer remain here. Wait right here. I'll go get some help, he said before stepping out of the thoroughly wrecked room. Nagini's frantic thrashing had reduced all the furniture to splinters. Dabi, Xiaji called. Cassandra Vole sat gracefully in the living room sipping coffee, while Hermione was busily working on her holiday assignments. Didn't you ask Dabi to go buy you clothes earlier? Hermione lifted her head from her papers. If you truly have nothing to wear, I'd gladly help you pick out something lovely, far better than anything Dabi might choose. Don't misunderstand. This is merely payment for hosting you all these days, Cassandra remarked with elegant poise. Puffed. Before she could finish, Cassandra's coffee erupted from her mouth in an utterly undignified spray, drenching Xiaji head to toe. Xiaji dejectedly used a cleaning spell to wipe away the stains. Pointing at the suddenly appearing Dabi, Cassandra stammered, Why you? Why did you buy a dress? Do you have some peculiar preferences or something? Dabi held up a rather plain-looking dress. Master Xiaji, there were no suitable dresses at home, so Dabi bought one instead. Perfect, that'll do just fine. Thank you, Dabi. You've done excellently, Xiaji replied warmly. Dabi instantly beamed with joy. The great Master Xiaji praised my efforts. You still haven't answered me, Cassandra continued smoothly. This dress certainly doesn't match either Hermione's or my size. Are you perhaps fond of feminine attire? If so, I'd be happy to help you pick out some next time. It doesn't even seem to fit you, Xiaji. Hermione also eyed the dress in his hands. It's for Nagini, Cassandra, Hermione. Her curse has been lifted. What? Cassandra looked utterly bewildered. She'd heard earlier that Nagini was under some kind of curse, and Xiaji had been working to remove it. Yet neither had she nor Hermione realized it was the vicious blood curse beastman curse. They'd assumed he was merely treating an old injury or removing some lesser enchantment from his pet. Thus, they failed to grasp the true meaning behind his words. All right, follow me. I truly need your help now. Dabi, and I would feel rather awkward handling this situation alone. Intrigued, Cassandra and Hermione exchanged glances and trailed after him, clueless as to what he had in mind. What's the connection between removing a curse from your pet and buying dresses? Unless removing the curse magically transforms a snake into a beauty? You probably just woke up from a nap or something, Cassandra quipped sarcastically from behind. Though silent, Hermione shared similar thoughts. She suspected Xiaji might have experienced some sort of hallucination during the process. She mentally scanned through her books, pondering how best to help him return to normalcy. Yet upon reaching the room and swinging open the door, both Cassandra and Hermione froze in shock. The spacious chamber lay in disarray, littered with countless serpent scales. Near the window stood a graceful figure clad only in a coat, gazing silently outside. Spotting this stunningly beautiful woman wrapped in Xiaji's coat, both women turned back to him. "We demand an explanation. Who is she? Why is she here like this, wearing your coat?" Cassandra planted her hands on her hips, glaring at him. "An explanation? Didn't you just state the truth yourself?" Xiaji replied helplessly. "This is Nagini. She's human by nature. I removed her curse, so naturally she reverted to human form." Speechless for a moment, Cassandra realized with shock that her earlier sarcastic remarks had actually been spot on. Nagini truly had transformed from a massive serpent into a radiant beauty. But how is this possible? Wasn't Nagini a snake? Hermione asked, utterly bewildered. "I'm a blood-cursed beast man, born bearing this vile curse," Nagini softly explained, turning toward them. "Cassandra, thank you so much for all your care." Cassandra had often fed Nagini and even helped bathe her. Now, with her memories restored, Nagini recalled all this clearly. "So you're a blood-cursed beast man, truly erudite and worldly." Cassandra instantly recognized the term, her gaze toward Nagini now filled with compassion. "What's a blood-cursed beast man?" Hermione pressed, having encountered no such term in her studies. "First, help her get dressed, then I'll explain everything to you," Xiaji gently urged. "Dobby, let's prepare a meal. I believe Nagini would relish a warm, hearty feast right now." "Of course, Master Xiaji. I've already learned how to roast lamb with cumin." "Excellent. Today I'll teach you how to prepare shrimp with longjing tea leaves." Chapter 122. Have you heard of Credence? Xiaji had specifically asked Dobby to help prepare a large table full of steaming hot dishes. Xiaji figured that after all those years of surviving on raw meat and blood, Nagini would surely appreciate such cooked food. Nagini was already wearing a dress purchased by Dobby, and Hermione decided to take her shopping later for some proper undergarments. Staring at the steaming feast before her, Nagini indeed wore an expression of deep nostalgia. "Thank you, Xiaji. And thank you too, Dobby." Dobby rubbed his hands together happily. He hadn't expected Nagini to thank him as well. As she speared a piece of lamb with her fork and brought it to her mouth, tears slowly trickled down her cheeks. All of this was real. She had finally escaped that nightmare completely. From now on, she, Nagini, would truly be human. Every night, she'd no longer have to transform back into a snake. Hermione couldn't help but ask, "So, what exactly is a blood-cursed beast man?" Her curiosity had always been insatiable. Earlier, Xiaji hadn't yet answered her question. "A blood-cursed beast man is a hereditary curse passed down through the maternal line," Cassandra Vole explained. "From the very moment one is cursed, they become a blood-cursed beast man, capable of shifting between human and animal forms, just like Xiaji Animagus abilities. But unlike Animagi, over time they inevitably end up permanently transformed into animals, never able to revert to human form. Moreover, they lose all memories of their human life. They become nothing but animals." What's even more terrifying is that this is a hereditary curse. Every daughter born to a blood-cursed beast man inherits it as well, passing it down endlessly. Upon hearing this, Hermione shivered involuntarily. This curse was truly vile and horrifying. It brought lifelong suffering not only to those cursed, but also doomed their descendants to the same nightmare. Hermione couldn't even imagine how utterly desperate one must feel when slowly losing their humanity, gradually turning into an animal. Her gaze toward Nagini shifted completely. Now she finally understood what Nagini had endured. Living as a pure snake in the wilderness for over a decade? Just thinking about it sent chills down her spine. Still, I never expected that this so-called incurable curse was actually broken by you. Cassandra Vole looked at Xiaji. Logically speaking, a blood-cursed beast man who'd already turned into an animal should never revert to human form. So, Xiaji, did you secretly take risks behind our backs again? Breaking a minor blood curse? That hardly counts as risk-taking, Xiaji replied arrogantly. Those who claim this curse is unbreakable simply lack the skill. Really? Cassandra Vole gazed at him skeptically. Of course. For me, it required no effort whatsoever. Barely even broke a sweat. It falls squarely within my expertise. You know, I've been studying soul magic lately. Naturally, Xiaji wouldn't admit to any actual danger he'd faced. The peril had long since passed. There was no need to make others worry about him again. But if there was no danger, why did you send both of us away? Hermione interjected sharply. Well, with you two around, I get distracted. Cassandra Vole also fixed Xiaji with her emerald green eyes, her gaze heavy with meaning. For a moment, Xiaji feared she'd mastered legilimency. Thankfully, she eventually let it go, making no further inquiries. Xiaji and Dobby truly excelled at cooking. Nagini had never tasted anything so delicious, not even in her days before fully transforming into a snake. Once everyone had eaten their fill, Nagini spoke up. I've been meaning to ask, what happened to Grindelwald in the end? Also, have either of you heard of someone named Credence? Grindelwald was defeated years ago by Professor Dumbledore and is currently imprisoned at Nurmengard. As for Credence, I've never encountered that name. Xiaji shook his head. Truthfully, before his transmigration, the films hadn't concluded yet. He truly had no idea what happened to Credence afterward. Moreover, none of the modern magical history texts he'd studied mentioned any such figure. Noticing Nagini's disappointed expression, Xiaji added, Professor Dumbledore is immensely knowledgeable. He'd likely know more. I can arrange for you to meet him. Nagini perked up instantly. I've indeed met Professor Dumbledore before, many years ago. Whenever you have questions, feel free to ask him. I'll send him a letter first to check his availability. Xiaji nodded affirmatively. Rising from the table, he called out, Ysiri, light up. Instantly, the phoenix appeared before him. Xiaji took out a scroll and quill, scribbled a note, then handed it to Ysiri, instructing him to deliver it to Professor Dumbledore. With a flash of flame, Ysiri vanished. Xiaji then asked Hermione and Cassandra Vole to accompany Nagini shopping for feminine undergarments and daily necessities. He planned to await Dumbledore's reply before deciding when to bring Nagini to him. Ysiri returned swiftly, and alongside him came Professor Dumbledore himself. Professor, why have you come personally? Xiaji exclaimed in surprise. I must say, you never cease to amaze me. Dumbledore smiled warmly. I once attempted to break her curse, but failed utterly. To think you succeeded where I could not. Pure luck, nothing more, Xiaji modestly demurred. He invited Dumbledore to sit down in the parlor. Care for some chilled watermelon juice? I highly recommend it. It's exceptionally sweet. I'm certain you'll adore it. Oh, absolutely. Dumbledore gladly accepted. Dobby carefully brought forth a tall glass of chilled watermelon juice, placing it respectfully before Professor Dumbledore. Dumbledore glanced at Dobby fondly, then praised. Oh, what a splendid suit. This is Dobby, my newly hired house elf. Frankly, few would ever consider hiring a house elf. Yet with you, it comes as no surprise. Upon seeing Dobby's attire, Dumbledore instantly recognized him as Xiaji, house elf. I believe you'd have done the same in my place. In the original tale, it was Dumbledore who'd freed and employed Dobby. Dumbledore took a sip of the juice, his face instantly lighting up with delight. Xiaji, may I meet Nagini? Of course. Chapter 123. Nagini. Can I watch your Obscurus? Of course you may. Though you might have to wait a bit. I had no idea you'd be coming in person, so I asked Hermione and the others to take her shopping. You see, she just reverted back to human form, and I simply had no feminine clothing here. That's quite all right. Perhaps while waiting, I could ask you for some guidance on how to break the blood curse. Upon learning that Xiaji had successfully undone the blood curse, Professor Dumbledore was utterly astounded. He was desperate to know exactly how Xiaji managed such a feat, especially since he himself had been utterly powerless against it in the past. This revelation hit him just as hard as it would a mathematician hearing that a mere schoolchild had proven Goldbach's conjecture. Of course, I'll gladly share everything I know. Xiaji simply shrugged. There truly was nothing to hide. He'd been studying soul magic all along, even consulting Professor Dumbledore specifically on matters related to souls. Strictly speaking, aside from those offensive spells, the rest of soul magic didn't classify as dark magic at all. Thus, he recounted in full detail how he'd freed Nagini from the curse. He did, however, alter the origin story of Sophia, the unicorn spirit, claiming only that, for some inexplicable reason, she'd taken a liking to him. He also omitted the lengthy portion where he'd employed copious dark magic to obliterate Nagini's nightmares. Eventually, I reached the Misty Realm, where I encountered countless blood-red wraiths. No spell I tried seemed to affect them. Even when shattered into pieces, they'd reform anew. With no other choice, I resorted to casting Fiendfire. Xiaji spoke with a hint of resignation. As you know, Voldemort once taught me this spell. By openly admitting his use of Fiendfire, Xiaji ensured Professor Dumbledore would fully comprehend his actions. His honesty, he figured, would only inspire greater trust in the old wizard. And sure enough, Dumbledore nodded approvingly. Under those circumstances, only Fiendfire could possibly diminish such creatures. If I'm not mistaken, those crimson mists constitute the very essence of the blood curse. Though risky, your use of Fiendfire ultimately eradicated it entirely. Xiaji then described how he'd reunited Nagini's soul and reshaped it, even demonstrating before Dumbledore a spell capable of temporarily softening souls. He held nothing back here. These techniques were entirely above board. Truly ingenious. Absolutely brilliant. Upon hearing this entire account and witnessing the soul magic firsthand, Dumbledore clapped enthusiastically in admiration. While other children still struggle with holiday homework, you've already achieved such extraordinary feats. Xiaji, you're by far the brightest, most gifted young wizard I've ever encountered. Even Xiaji, whose thick skin could withstand anything, blushed under such praise. Women truly can shop for hours on end. Xiaji had intended to send them a message urging them back promptly after shopping, but Professor Dumbledore intervened. He reasoned Nagini hadn't interacted with human society in ages. Thus, she deserved some undisturbed time reconnecting with it. Consequently, Xiaji and Dumbledore spent hours discussing alchemy and the enchanted computers they'd modified together. At first, Madame Pants resisted, but after testing it herself, she became utterly enamored. The search function was unparalleled. For someone managing an entire library alone, this was an invaluable tool. Hours passed. Dumbledore had consumed 3 tall glasses of chilled watermelon juice and devoured 2 plates of Xiaji's homemade cakes. Only then did Nagini and the others finally return. Professor Dumbledore. Nagini gasped emotionally upon seeing him. You seem so much older now. Yet you remain as youthful and lovely as ever, Nagini. Dumbledore replied warmly. Xiaji, may I speak with Nagini alone for a moment? Xiaji nodded, then gestured to Hermione and Cassandra to accompany him outside to play with the unicorns, leaving the 2 undisturbed. A long while passed before Nagini emerged, her expression heavy with melancholy. Xiaji understood. She'd learned everything she needed to know. Yet he wisely refrained from prying. Those were painful memories. Pressing further might only wound her anew. Allowing her to leave the past behind and forge ahead seemed far wiser. Dumbledore followed Nagini outside. Nagini wishes to stay with you. Promise me you'll care for her well, Xiaji. His voice softened. You see, I have so few true friends left in this world. Nagini is one of them. Of course, Xiaji replied. She's my dearest friend too. Dumbledore nodded, then noticed the serene unicorns grazing nearby. Ah! Hagrid mentioned last time that a whole herd vanished from the Forbidden Forest, fearing they'd met some misfortune. Now he can rest easy. Smiling, he placed his tall wizard's hat upon his head, never asking why unicorns gathered around Xiaoji. Perhaps upon hearing of the unicorn spirit, he'd grasped just how deeply Xiaoji connected with them. Well then, I'll be off now. If it's alright, could Yasairi escort me? She seems to miss me too. Xiaoji agreed. Yasairi glided over, and Dumbledore seized her tail feathers. Flames erupted, and he vanished instantly. Nagini sat motionless on a swing-side chair, lost in thought. Xiaoji approached, settling beside her. I'm no good at offering comfort, nor do I know what troubles you. But one thing I do know. Life must always move forward. Nagini lifted her head, smiling faintly at him. Hesitantly, she murmured, You too are an Obscurus, right? I recall our first meeting. You summoned me, then employed your Obscurus. Yes, I am indeed an Obscurus. Xiaoji nodded. Back then, raiding a camp of werewolf wizards, he transformed into an Obscurus, a whirlwind of darkness that annihilated every single one. Then, may I see it? I mean, it's rather forward of me, but may I witness your Obscurus? Of course, only if it's all right. Nagini gazed at him pleadingly. There's no issue. I wield complete control over it. Xiaoji's body dissolved into a swirling mass of black mist before Nagini. She stared at it sorrowfully, then reached out, only to halt midway. Pardon me, Xiaoji. I overstepped. The mist reformed into human shape. It's all right. I imagine you once knew another Obscurus. Seeing one yourself must have stirred such memories. That's perfectly natural. Grateful, Nagini smiled sweetly. In that instant, it seemed she'd finally released her past burdens. Chapter 124. Nagini, please live on as a human. Nagini, to celebrate your new life, I've prepared a gift for you. Xiaoji took out a wooden box and handed it to Nagini. Nagini received the box in surprise. Upon opening it, she saw a beautifully crafted wand inside. Snakewood and phoenix feather, 11 2/3 inches long, Xiaoji said with a smile. I had Mr. Ollivander craft this specially for you. Nagini joyfully picked up the wand, and immediately, a soft glow enveloped her entire body. She felt an almost instinctive connection between herself and the wand. Her eyes shone with delight. Through his system interface, Xiaoji checked the compatibility between the wand and Nagini. To his amazement, he found that this wand matched her at a staggering 97%. Oh, this wand fits you perfectly, Xiaoji exclaimed happily. I believe Mr. Ollivander would be thrilled. Though perhaps you're not familiar with him, he's an exceptionally talented wand maker. I told him a bit about you and asked him to craft a wand just for you. Truthfully, before you picked it up, I wasn't even sure if it'd suit you. Nagini cradled the wand tenderly, then looked up gratefully. Thank you, Xiaoji. I never imagined I'd ever own a wand. You absolutely deserve one, Xiaoji replied warmly. You're a witch too, after all. For so many years, I'd forgotten I was actually a witch. Nagini spoke sadly. Cheer up, Nagini. The future stretches out before you. As a human being, as a witch, please live on bravely. From that day onward, one more person resided in Xiaoji home. Xiaoji noticed his household seemed increasingly lively. He'd always disliked the emptiness of a home with only himself present. Now, he finally felt at ease. Nagini settled in, and over time, her face grew brighter with smiles. Over the following days, Xiaoji taught Nagini numerous spells. She proved highly talented, possessing immense magical potential. She quickly reacquainted herself with her identity as a human being. A little over a week later, Harry suddenly appeared at Xiaoji's doorstep, accompanied by Ron. Apparently, Harry had spent exactly 2 weeks at his aunt's place before hopping on the night bus straight to Ron's house, and then both of them came here together. Standing at the entrance, Harry's eyes kept drifting toward a herd of unicorns grazing peacefully in the distance. This is, Harry stammered. Ron stood equally stunned. He'd only been away from Xiaoji's place for just over a week. How had so many unicorns appeared here? And there was also this beautiful older lady. Upon hearing what had happened during their absence, both boys were utterly astounded. Harry was completely flabbergasted. The idea of a giant snake suddenly transforming into a lovely lady seemed utterly absurd. Yet, somehow, coming from Xiaji, it made perfect sense. Had anyone else claimed such a thing, he'd have spat right in their face. Such nonsense. Yet now, seeing Yasairi perched inside Xiaji's home, he felt utterly unfazed. In fact, he even wondered if Yasairi might one day also transform into a pretty lady. Really, at Xiaji Place, nothing seemed too strange to happen. Xiaji's home lacked nothing except space. There were simply plenty of rooms. He instructed Dobby to arrange lodging for Harry, who was promptly placed in the room next to Ron's. That very night, Xiaji gathered all DA members in his basement. Ron and Nagini were also present. Ron, you understand the original purpose behind forming the DA, right? So, are you still determined to join us? Xiaji asked earnestly. Of course. I know that person will definitely return. Harry even encountered him face-to-face last time, Ron replied, frowning. When my friends are fighting, I refuse to stand by helplessly. He recalled how Harry and Hermione had fought that troll together. Though they'd still lost, at least they'd acted rather than merely watching from the sidelines. He yearned to stand shoulder to shoulder with his friends, fighting alongside them in battle. At home, he was always overlooked. Among friends, he was the weakest. He'd grown weary of feeling powerless and of his own self-doubt. Xiaji clutched his wand, his dark eyes gazing intently at Ron. Ron felt as though he was peering into an unfathomably deep, icy pool, one that seemed capable of seeing right through his very soul. Welcome to the DA, Ron. Xiaji finally spoke, his gaze softening. Ron exhaled in relief. Moments ago, he'd felt crushed under an invisible weight, struggling even to breathe. Ron, you're quite capable. You've simply been overlooked. Xiaji's expression turned gentle once more. Also, I suggest you get a new wand. But Ron hesitated. His family was poor, and this year's defense against the dark arts textbook was prohibitively expensive. With Ginny starting school soon, there simply wouldn't be any spare funds left for a new wand. Your current wand's core is unicorn hair. Such wands remain fiercely loyal to their original owners, rarely accepting a second, Xiaji explained calmly. Hence, your slow progress in spellwork isn't due to lack of talent, but simply because you lack a wand truly suited to you. But I understand, Ron. Since I've established the DA, I won't allow any member to waste their potential due to lacking a proper wand. So, I'll procure one for you. I don't need it, Ron faltered. Honestly, he didn't want to accept a gift from Xiaji. His poverty was a major source of his insecurity. To him, such generosity felt akin to charity. I know what you're thinking, Ron, that I'm merely showing charity toward you. I know. Ron grew flustered. Regardless of whether you see it as charity or not, you must accept this wand. Xiaji's tone hardened. Do you think I'd give you this wand solely for your benefit? You know full well who our enemies are. They're ruthless killers. Without a wand fully obedient to you, you'll be in mortal peril. And should you ever be in danger, do you believe the other DA members would abandon you? They'd return to save you. Yet such actions could cost them their lives. Would you truly let your own petty pride jeopardize your friends, your comrades?
No.
Of course, I wouldn't want them risking anything for me, Ron retorted hastily. Then accept this wand without hesitation. This is for your sake, and for theirs. I believe, for your friend's sake, you can bear this small sacrifice. Xiaji's voice softened again. Apologies. I may have spoken rather harshly. Yet if it helps, consider this one your Christmas gift. I won't be giving you anything else that day. Ron lowered his head, tears glistening. He suddenly felt utterly ungrateful. Though Xiaji's words had been stern, they rang true. Could he truly allow his own pride to endanger his friends? If Harry or anyone else died trying to rescue him, he'd never forgive himself. Moreover, Xiaji was the first person ever to call him capable.
Thank you, Xiaji.
I understand now. Chapter 125. Xiaji, go easy on me. Cassandra Vol. I'll be smashed to pieces. Xiaji patted Ron on the shoulder. All Ron needed was some validation, a bit of attention. Xiaji himself had once suffered from low self-esteem. He fully understood that feeling. All right, earlier I taught Harry a spell of my own creation, one that actually saved his life. Harry, would you mind demonstrating it for us? Harry nodded, took out his wand, and drew a deep breath, gently waving his wand. Whoosh! Harry instantly vanished from where he stood, only to reappear several meters away. Gasps erupted from everyone present. It was clear just how extraordinary this spell was. Hound Steps wasn't the same as apparition, so it could be used even in places where apparition was prohibited, without any risks like body fragmentation. This allowed the caster to focus more on other aspects during combat. You never taught me this, Cassandra Vol remarked, narrowing her eyes at Xiaji. That's true. Mastering this spell takes immense effort. I didn't want you to go through all that trouble. Ask Harry if you don't believe me. Xiaji glanced toward Harry. Trouble. Harry stared back at Xiaji. The horrifying memories of being pushed to the brink of death that day resurfaced, sending chills down his spine. Why, yeah, it was incredibly difficult. I almost died. Ahem. No need to elaborate further. Xiaji cut off Harry's elaboration. This spell is called Hound Steps. It doesn't come easily. It demands relentless practice. Unless, like Harry, you're forced into it under extreme circumstances. Harry nodded frantically. That ordeal had been pure nightmare fuel. So, I'd like to teach you all a simpler spell. It's basic, yet many modern aurists can't even perform it. Frankly, today's aurists pale in comparison to those of the past. Xiaji had every right to say this. Even before attending Hogwarts, he'd single-handedly dismantled an entire aura squad. All right, I'll now demonstrate this spell. All of you, come forward and attack me. Don't hesitate. Use any spells you know. Aim them at me. Xiaji stood at the center of the spacious underground chamber, beckoning them onward. Nagini, you two. No worries. Ron, you join in as well. Cassandra smirked, taking the lead in launching an assault. Bone-crushing curse. Xiaji effortlessly deflected this seemingly devastating spell with his wand. The curse ricocheted far off, striking several pre-placed targets and obliterating them all. Xiaji swallowed hard. Sure, I'm not afraid of you hurting me, but seriously, you've got zero restraint. Blasting someone with bone-crushing curse right off the bat? That's way overkill, you know. Yet Xiaji remained unfazed, standing calmly at the center. Harry, Hermione, and Neville exchanged glances, then simultaneously struck. Bone-crushing curse. Reducto. Xiaji. Though his friends unleashed spells of varying magnitudes, Xiaji stood firm, not even budging an inch. With mere wand gestures, he redirected all curses back toward the distant targets. No matter how ferocious the onslaught, Xiaji maintained his composure, waving his wand like a conductor leading a symphony. Moments later, while Xiaji barely broke a sweat, Cassandra and the others collapsed from exhaustion, panting heavily. In the end, only Nagini remained capable of attacking. After all, they were still young. Merely conjuring powerful spells like Reducto was already quite the feat, let alone sustaining them. Their magical reserves were simply limited. Seeing everyone too drained to continue, Nagini ceased fire as well. She'd only used disarming charms, far gentler than the others' assaults. Of course, Ron remained standing too. He'd merely waved his wand without even managing a single proper disarming charm. His face flushed crimson, and he resolved right then to replace that wand, originally his brother's, still rightfully his. As you've all witnessed, I've been employing one particular spell throughout, the shield charm. Xiaji surveyed his breathless friends. The shield charm wards off most defensive spells and can even reflect them back at attackers. Turning to Nagini, he ordered, Nagini, cast a disarming charm at me. Nagini nodded and unleashed a crimson beam. She'd long since mastered silent spells. Xiaji casually raised his wand. A translucent white barrier materialized before him. The red beam struck it and bounced straight back, striking Nagini instead. Her wand flew from her grasp, caught midair by Xiaji.
See?
That's precisely what the shield charm achieves. Until you master Hound Steps, rely on this spell to defend against attacks. Though, should you ever face the killing curse, flee at once. The shield charm can't block it. His tone turned grave. Even minimal contact with that curse spells instant death. So, dodge it at all costs, or shield yourself with any object possible. It usually won't pierce solid matter. Though this only applies to lesser dark wizards, Voldemort's killing curses are far beyond its defense. Xiaji recalled Cassandra's talisman, the very one that had shielded him from a killing curse. He vowed to study it further. Should he replicate and enhance it into a reliable defense against such curses, countless lives could be saved. He then taught Harry and the others the shield charm in detail. Though Xiaji described it as simple, it remained far too advanced for these newly graduated first years. Only Nagini swiftly managed it. Scratching his head, Xiaji mused, "Oops, I misjudged. I assumed it'd be easy enough for them to grasp, even planned to teach them how to deflect spells too. Turns out, they couldn't even conjure a proper shield charm. They'd floundered right at the starting line."
Ding.
"You're a cheat. Don't you realize that?" Well, well. Long silence from you. "Where have you been raking in cash?" Xiaji teased the system. It had lain dormant for ages, and without its interference, he'd grown somewhat unaccustomed.
Ding.
"You've reclaimed your lost soul, prompting the system's reactivation and upgrade." Upgrade. Xiaji perked up. An upgraded system surely meant new features galore. Chapter 126. A mature host should learn to ask the system for rewards on their own. Xiaji instructed Nagini to watch over Harry and the others as they practiced the shield charm. Then he himself departed. He had already taught them all the necessary spells and techniques, and Nagini was there to provide further guidance. There was really no need for him to stay. Xiaji stepped outside, lay down on the grass, and gazed up at the starry sky. Perhaps because this was a rural area, the sky here appeared exceptionally pure and beautiful. System, you've undergone an upgrade. What new functions does it offer now?
Ding.
System upgrade complete. Rewards and items provided will now be far more generous. Oh, does that mean I can obtain magical items even more valuable than the Philosopher's Stone? Or perhaps even a creature more powerful than a phoenix?
Ding.
Please pay close attention to the wording of your question. The key term here is items.
Ding.
Items do not include living creatures. As for whether you can obtain magical items superior to the Philosopher's Stone, that depends entirely on your luck. Well, that's just rearranging the same old things. Whether I get anything good still hinges on my luck. After pondering for a moment, Xiaji suddenly spoke up. "If I manage to get my hands on Voldemort's notebook, will the system grant me a reward?" A mature host must know how to proactively request rewards from the system. From his own experience, the more unrestrained his actions, the richer his rewards tended to be.
Ding.
The task requested by the host has been approved. Should the host obtain Voldemort's Horcrux notebook within this academic year, the system shall reward him with 3 skill points and 1 random item chest. Failure to complete the task will result in penalties. A faint smile appeared on Xiaji's lips. The system truly responded well to this kind of approach. Securing that notebook would be quite easy. Even deceiving Professor Dumbledore wouldn't be difficult. After all, he'd already informed Dumbledore in advance about a possible plan Lucius Malfoy might attempt. But that was merely a possibility, so it was perfectly normal if Lucius Malfoy ultimately chose not to act. At that moment, an amusing idea he'd previously entertained resurfaced in Xiaji's mind. Half a month later, Xiaji returned from Ollivander's wand shop. During this period, he'd visited nearly every day. Of course, he wasn't there to pick up a new wand for Ron. Instead, he sought Ollivander's guidance on wand lore. Xiaji firmly believed wand lore to be an immensely profound discipline. In the original story, Voldemort's lack of understanding of wand lore played a significant role in his downfall. Naturally, Ollivander never readily divulged his exclusive wand-making techniques. Yet, he'd always held this exceptionally talented young wizard in high regard. Xiaji was the very first student Ollivander had encountered since taking over the shop to independently select a wand suited to him. Thus, whenever Xiaji came seeking advice, Ollivander would gladly share certain tips he developed. Though they remained peripheral to the core techniques, they still held great practical value. Initially, Xiaji only required basic knowledge to begin his own research, but Ollivander's supplementary guidance accelerated his progress tremendously. Consequently, the questions he posed daily grew progressively more intricate over time. Ollivander grew increasingly impressed by this young wizard. Xiaji possessed an extraordinary aptitude for wand lore, grasping concepts instantly and drawing far-reaching inferences from them. Hence, whenever Xiaji posed precisely the right questions, Ollivander, thoroughly intrigued, would invariably offer him highly valuable insights. Eventually, Ollivander found himself at a loss. He'd unconsciously shared all his most closely guarded secrets with Xiaji. Only then did he fully realize what had transpired. By that point, however, it was far too late. Fortunately, Xiaji assured him he harbored no interest in opening a wand shop. He merely cherished wand lore itself. He even addressed Ollivander as his teacher right then and there. On his final departure, Xiaji presented Ollivander with a pouch containing 5,000 galleons, a tuition fee for all his teachings. Xiaji felt this expenditure entirely worthwhile. After all, he'd acquired skills vital to Ollivander's very livelihood. The generous payment also brought Ollivander immense satisfaction. He came to view having such a diligent student as a wonderful thing indeed. Upon returning home, Xiaji found Nagini and Dobby busy cooking in the kitchen, while Cassandra Vole and Hermione sat together completing their homework. Even during Hogwarts summer break, dreaded homework assignments still existed. Yet, despite the vacation having begun, Xiaji hadn't touched his own assignments at all. In his eyes, any homework not completed in the final 3 days hardly qualified as summer homework. Greeting them briefly, he headed straight to his study. He cleared his desk and retrieved an entire set of wand-making tools, a parting gift Ollivander had joyfully bestowed upon him after receiving the 5,000 galleons. Xiaji took out his wand. This ebony wand harmonized perfectly with him, yet remained an ordinary wand. He consulted the system. Item: wand, core, dragon heartstring, length, 12 3/4 inches. Flexibility, extremely rigid. Condition, excellent. Compatibility, 100%. Dark magic affinity, 99%. Grasping his tools, he chanted incantations and carefully disassembled his wand per specific instructions. Then, employing a delicate engraving knife, he inscribed a series of highly complex magical runes along its length. After painstakingly reassembling it using specialized spells, he noticed something remarkable. The once ordinary ebony wand had grown stronger. It even seemed slightly heavier than before, though that might have merely been his imagination. He checked its updated attributes. Item: wand, enhanced +3, core, dragon heartstring, length, 12 3/4 inches, flexibility, extremely rigid, condition, excellent, enhanced +3, spell power +30%, compatibility, 100%, dark magic affinity, 100%. The one standard wand had now become an enhanced version boasting a +3 boost. Its most immediate effect was a 30% increase in spell power, while its dark magic affinity had risen from 99% to a perfect 100%. Xiaji felt somewhat disappointed. He'd inscribed numerous enhancement runes, yet the maximum boost remained merely +3, with only a modest 30% rise in power, far below his expectations. This limitation likely stemmed from the wand's inherent materials. Perhaps only +3 enhancement was achievable at its peak quality. Still, he'd have to seek superior materials in the future. For now, this enhanced wand would suffice. He stored it away. Still, A 30% boost in power was no small feat. Ollivander would undoubtedly feel immense pride knowing one of his students had achieved such a feat. Next, Xiaozhi retrieved a piece of willow wood and a premium unicorn hair. With practiced ease, he began working with his wand-making tools. At his current level, crafting a fully functional wand posed no difficulty whatsoever. Chapter 127. Mr. G. The Elder Wand's Parameters? I have them. When Ollivander crafts wands, he generally uses random combinations of materials. Once a wand is completed, it's placed on a shelf, awaiting the arrival of its destined owner. This time, however, it was essentially a custom-made wand for Ron. Xiaozhi had already gathered all the necessary information about Ron, and based on that data, he meticulously crafted a brand new wand. Xiaozhi was confident that this wand would share over 95% compatibility with Ron's original one. Of course, he wasn't making this wand for Ron out of sheer generosity. It also served as an experiment for him. It took quite some time to complete. Xiaozhi held the freshly crafted willow wand up to his eyes, studying it carefully. Much like his own wand made of black oak, this willow wand could only be enhanced up to around +3. Any further increase proved impossible. Xiaozhi had already determined that this limitation stemmed directly from the wand's materials. Though this mere 30% boost seemed rather underwhelming in Xiaozhi's eyes, for young wizards like Ron, it was more than sufficient. Placing the newly enhanced willow wand down, Xiaozhi gazed out the window, lost in thought. Just how much damage amplification could the legendary Elder Wand actually provide? Or perhaps the Elder Wand didn't merely amplify the power of spells, it might possess other, unknown effects as well. Xiaozhi leaned toward the latter possibility. After all, how could a wand forged by Death himself possess only one such simple effect? It was a shame, though, that last time things happened too hastily. He hadn't gotten a chance to observe the Elder Wand in Professor Dumbledore's possession through the system interface. Thus, now Xiaozhi could only make educated guesses. Holding his wand, Xiaozhi descended the stairs and handed it to Ron. "This is a new wand I made for you. Go ahead and try it," Xiaozhi said calmly. Surprised, Ron reached out, ready to accept the new wand. He'd always assumed Xiaozhi would simply purchase a new wand from Ollivander for him. Though it stung his pride a bit, he decided to accept it anyway. What he hadn't expected was that Xiaozhi claimed to have crafted the wand himself. Ron couldn't help but feel skeptical. Could a wand made by Xiaozhi truly compare to one crafted by Ollivander? Yet upon receiving it, Ron's expression instantly turned one of delight. This wand felt surprisingly comfortable in his grip. It was far easier to wield than Charlie's old wand. There was no longer any sense of resistance or sluggishness when moving it. Xiaozhi set up a target at one end of the living room. "Ron, try casting a disarming charm," he instructed. I haven't quite mastered that spell yet," Ron replied awkwardly. "That's only because your old wand didn't suit you. Just give it a shot," Xiaozhi replied, somewhat impatiently. Reluctantly, Ron stepped forward toward the target. All eyes turned toward him. Ron's face flushed red once more. He could already imagine the stares he'd receive if he failed to cast the spell. "No one's going to laugh at you, Ron. I'm quite confident in the wand I made," Xiaozhi assured him earnestly. "All right." Facing the target, Ron raised his wand and recited the spell he'd practiced countless times, yet never managed to cast successfully. Expelliarmus. Boom. A thick beam of red light erupted from Ron's wand, striking the target with tremendous force. The target let out a thunderous crash before toppling over completely. Ron stood there, utterly stunned. The power behind this disarming charm far surpassed even Harry's most practiced attempts at the same spell. "Told you could do it, Ron," Xiaozhi remarked, showing little surprise, as though this had been entirely expected. "Ron, look at the top of the wand's handle. Do you see a small circular button there?" Ron glanced at it and nodded affirmatively. "Press it, then cast the disarming charm once more," Xiaozhi ordered, resetting the target. Now more confident, Ron pressed the button on his wand and eagerly unleashed another disarming charm toward the target. Yet this time, The spell appeared far dimmer, its power noticeably weaker than before. Confused, Ron turned to Xiaji. I've enhanced your wand. When you press that button, it enters standard mode, essentially functioning as an ordinary wand. But if you press it again, causing it to pop back up, the wand becomes enhanced, amplifying any spell cast by roughly 30%, Xiaji explained. Delighted, Ron fiddled with his brand new willow wand, yet couldn't help asking, but why? Why include this button at all? Wouldn't it be better if the wand stayed in enhanced mode permanently? Xiaji shrugged. Come now, you're still students, still in the learning phase. If you kept using enhanced wands all the time, your spellcasting abilities would hardly improve at all. In Xiaji's view, true growth meant strengthening one's own skills, not relying on external boosts. Constantly using enhanced wands would make it far easier to learn new spells, which would only hinder genuine progress. After all, such enhancements were nothing but illusions. If one ever lost their enhanced wand, they'd be utterly helpless. Subsequently, Xiaji enhanced each of their wands in turn, though he left the activation buttons intact. He advised them to use standard mode most of the time, reserving enhanced mode only for critical moments. During their formative years, they shouldn't become overly dependent on equipment advantages. In subsequent letters to Mr. G, Xiaji proposed numerous ideas for improving Wizards' combat gear. This enhanced wand was merely the most basic example. On the matter of developing and strengthening Wizards' equipment, Xiaji and Mr. G had long since reached mutual agreement. Several days after sending off a paper airplane, Xiaji finally received a reply from Mr. G. Greetings, Mr. Anonymous X. Regarding your suggestions on enhancing Wizards' combat capabilities, I believe they're entirely feasible. Trust me, these ingenious ideas will prove immensely valuable. As for your claim of being able to enhance wands, boosting their power by 30%, I must express my profound admiration once again. You truly are a genius. I had no idea you possessed such deep knowledge of wandcraft. Apologies, but my own understanding in this field remains rather limited. However, concerning the parameters of the Elder Wand that have been troubling you, I happen to know a few things. Xiaji was thrilled to discover that Mr. G's reply included specific details regarding the Elder Wand's attributes and potential amplifications. The Elder Wand remained profoundly mysterious. Even its current owner couldn't fully grasp all its effects. Yet here was someone so intimately familiar with it. At this point, Xiaji felt almost certain of Mr. G's true identity. Beyond those two individuals, no one else in the world could possibly possess such profound knowledge of the Elder Wand. Xiaji carefully reviewed its parameters, marveling silently at the wand's enigmatic nature. He also realized he'd been mistaken earlier. The upper limit of a wand's enhancement might not solely stem from material constraints. Even if he crafted another wand using the exact same materials as the Elder Wand, it still wouldn't match its level of power. If materials weren't the sole factor, then the difference must lie in the internal engravings and magical inscriptions. Under Ollivander's tutelage, Xiaji's mastery of wandcraft had already reached 7 points. It seemed that to achieve further breakthroughs in wand enhancement, he'd need to max out his wandcraft proficiency first. Fortunately, Xiaji knew exactly where he could obtain 3 additional skill points. Chapter 128. Xiaji, I'm Voldemort. Pay up. Midnight. Lucius Malfoy finally managed to break free from the social obligations and return to his estate. Ever since the time he drank too much and inexplicably released his house elf, he made it a habit to consume a potion designed to sober him up after any social event. As a result, Lucius Malfoy was currently in perfect sobriety. The sobriety potion worked exceptionally well, but it had one drawback. Its effects were so potent that he stood no chance of falling asleep tonight. Since sleep was out of the question, he decided to head to his study and refine his plans. He had already learned from his so-called friends the exact date when the Weasley family planned to visit Diagon Alley. On that day, he intended to provoke Arthur Weasley, ideally sparking a full-blown quarrel. Then, it would be a piece of cake to slip that item belonging to the Dark Lord into one of that stupid girl's old textbooks. While mentally running through these schemes, Lucius opened the door to his study, completely unaware that Dobby had already leaked all his plans. His movements abruptly halted. He sensed that someone was already present in the darkness. "Who's there?" Lucius swiftly drew his intricately decorated wand from his cane. The shadow in the dark seemed to stand upright. Lucius swallowed hard. His hand gripping the wand trembled slightly. He had never been particularly brave, otherwise, he wouldn't have been such a fence-sitter, constantly shifting allegiances. "Lucius, your courage remains as pathetic as ever. Truly, you're an utterly useless coward." A high-pitched, icy, yet somewhat hoarse voice echoed from the darkness. Whoosh! A gust of cold wind blew through, instantly igniting every lamp and candle in the study. Lucius trembled violently, staring at the figure clad in a black cloak before him, his face filled with disbelief. Who are you?" Lucius struggled to speak sternly, but the quaver in his voice betrayed his terror. Impossible! That person had long since vanished. He must be dead. This had to be an impostor. If he hadn't died, why hadn't he shown his face all these years? A glimmer of hope flickered in Lucius's heart. The cloaked figure raised both hands and removed his hood. Upon seeing the wand clutched in that person's hand, Lucius's heart plummeted. A wand made of yew wood. He'd never forget the sight of that wand in his life. It was this very wand that had unleashed the killing curse upon countless victims before him and subjected him to the cruciatus curse time and again. The hood came off, revealing a face both familiar and utterly alien. Hairless, with blood-red eyes glowing malevolently in the dark, his pupils were slit like those of a serpent. His mouth lacked lips, his nose was barely visible. Only 2 narrow nostrils remained. Tall and emaciated, his skeletal frame crept closer to Lucius step by step. "Lucius, I must admit, I never expected such a coward to pull off something so audacious. You dared to betray me." "Oh!" A whimpering groan escaped Lucius's throat, a plea for mercy. "My lord, great dark lord, I did not betray you. Crucio." "Ea!" Lucius collapsed to the floor in agony. This excruciating sensation was all too familiar. Those torturous years seemed to replay before him in an instant. Though his master's appearance had changed drastically, one thing remained undeniable. He had returned. "Do not lie to me," Voldemort roared. "Lord, I merely stayed hidden. I had to endure humiliation. You know, we can't afford to lose everyone to Azkaban." Curled on the floor, terror threatened to make Lucius vomit. Even breathing felt like an insurmountable task in the presence of this man. "I said, do not lie to me." Voldemort lowered his head, gazing down at Lucius Malfoy. "It's only because you still serve some purpose." Softly murmuring, Voldemort ran 2 fingers along his yew wand. "Yes, my lord. I'm still useful to you." Lucius scrambled to his feet, prostrating himself before Voldemort, desperate to kiss his boots. Voldemort kicked him away. "Where's the diary I left with you? Don't tell me you handed it over to the Ministry of Magic in exchange for your own freedom." Voldemort's serpentine pupils narrowed slightly. One wrong answer, and a flash of green light would follow. It's still here." Lucius Malfoy felt immense relief. He was glad he hadn't yet slipped that diary into one of the Weasleys' old books. Otherwise, a shiver ran down his spine. He dared not imagine the consequences. He scrambled to one side of the study and chanted a spell toward an ornate bookshelf. Slowly, the bookshelf split in 2, revealing a hidden compartment. Lucius had used specialized bloodline magic to conceal it. Only someone bearing Malfoy blood and knowing the correct incantation could ever discover it. Of course, powerful wizards could forcibly breach it as well. Stumbling forward, Lucius retrieved a wooden box. Inside lay the diary. Voldemort snatched the box from his grasp. "Did you plan to use the Weasleys to smuggle my diary into Hogwarts?" Lucius shivered. This was it. No matter what he thought, the Dark Lord always saw right through him. His pretense was utterly transparent before him. "You fool! Do you have any idea how important this item is to me? How dare you expose it to Dumbledore's very eyes?" A crimson glow flared in Voldemort's serpentine eyes. Instantly, Lucius collapsed to the floor, pleading desperately. "Oh, my lord. I'm still useful. I'm still useful. Please allow me to serve you once more." He knew that look all too well. When Voldemort fixed someone with such a stare, death was inevitable. Next would come the killing curse. Desperate, Lucius sensed Voldemort's wand already aimed at his skull. "It's only because my plans still require you." Relief washed over Lucius as Voldemort retracted his wand. "I'd be honored to serve you, my lord. Shall I contact the others?" "No. I have my own plans. You must tell no one of my return. Otherwise, our next meeting will be your last. You know I can see through you effortlessly." Trembling on the floor, Lucius waited a long while before daring to glance up. Voldemort had vanished. He'd clearly left already. Collapsing onto the floor, Lucius lacked the strength to rise. Suddenly, a swirl of black mist materialized within a forest. The mist dissipated, revealing a tall, slender figure. Gradually, that figure transformed. Xiaji gazed at the enchanted wooden box in his hand, a wild grin spreading across his face. He felt immensely pleased. It was rather enjoyable, occasionally playing the role of the Dark Lord. The Voldemort Lucius Malfoy encountered was, of course, a disguise conjured by Xiaji himself. The real Voldemort was still gnawing on raw meat somewhere in Albania. Xiaji's wand was a meticulously crafted replica of Voldemort's wand. As for how he knew its exact design, Ollivander remembered every wand he'd ever crafted. He'd even drawn a sketch of Voldemort's wand. When Xiaji had consulted him on wandcraft, Ollivander had gladly shown him the drawing.
Ding.
Host successfully obtained Voldemort's diary. Reward, +3 skill points and 1 random item chest. P.S. We wonder if you all enjoy this sort of plot where the protagonist impersonates Voldemort to stir chaos? Chapter 129. The Ancient Wand Slumbering in Silence. When Xiaji returned, he had already confirmed that the contents of the box truly were Voldemort's Horcrux, the diary. He cast several additional isolation spells on the wooden box to prevent any soul trapped inside from sensing anything happening outside. It turned out the diary indeed possessed its own independent consciousness. Since Xiaji couldn't store it inside his ring of Nashira, he resorted to using an undetectable extension charm on his coat pocket, then simply tossed the box inside. Slowly, he emerged from the woods. Beyond them lay a hillside, where his residence stood.
Ding.
Host, would you like to open the random item chest? Asterisk open it.
Ding.
Now opening the item chest for the host.
Ding.
Congratulations, host. You've obtained a top-tier alchemy item, 1 bionic teardrop, along with its corresponding alchemy recipe. Bionic teardrop. Xiaji felt a surge of delight. Is this the one I remember?
Ding.
Affirmative. Instantly, a lump of bright silver substance appeared in his hand. So this is a bionic teardrop. Both the bionic teardrop and Hound Steps originated from a game known as Elden Ring. Unlike Hound Steps, which allowed instantaneous movement to dodge attacks, the bionic teardrop could generate a perfect replica of oneself, identical in appearance and combat power. Known among gamers as Big Bro, this construct served as an excellent tank whenever facing down bosses too powerful to defeat alone. In reality, though, this bionic teardrop had been somewhat nerfed. In the game, the Big Bro summoned possessed significantly more HP than the original user. This version, however, could only create a doppelganger matching Xiaji's own strength, no additional enhancements whatsoever. Of course, this clone differed fundamentally from ordinary magical duplicates. The bionic teardrop's creation was strictly limited to combat purposes. For instance, Xiaji couldn't command his bionic teardrop version to do his homework for him. Not bad at all. Xiaji was quite pleased with this reward. He had a fairly clear sense of just how powerful he'd become. If 2 versions of himself launched attacks simultaneously, even a fully restored Voldemort would likely be forced to retreat. Even better, the system had also included the actual alchemy recipe for crafting the bionic teardrop. Unfortunately, any subsequent teardrops produced could only be used by others. Each individual could only wield one at a time. With a mere thought, the recipe materialized instantly within his mind. He skimmed through it quickly and was astonished to realize that, despite his current alchemy proficiency reaching level 8, certain parts of the instructions still seemed obscure and difficult to comprehend. Apparently, reaching level 10 in alchemy would be necessary before successfully crafting one. Glancing toward those 3 remaining skill points, he briefly considered maxing out alchemy to learn the recipe, but reconsidered. Even if he managed to produce another teardrop, he currently had no one to assign it to, nor did he possess all the required materials just yet. Thus, he resolved to stick to his original plan, allocating 2 points toward wandcraft mastery and 1 toward alchemy. His status panel subsequently updated accordingly. Potion-making mastery, 6. Alchemy mastery, 9. Wandcraft, 10. Wandcraft had officially crossed the 10-point threshold, while alchemy reached 9. Upon attaining level 10 in Wandcraft, he anticipated gaining deeper insights into the secrets of ancient wands.
Ding.
Host, your Wandcraft has surpassed level 10. You've earned a random Wandcraft-related reward. Would you like to claim it? Claim it.
Ding.
Now randomly selecting your reward.
Ding.
Congratulations, host. You've obtained an ancient wand asleep in slumber. Ancient wand? And it's currently dormant. Xiaoji felt momentarily bewildered. Still, he went ahead and claimed it. Given its apparent antiquity, perhaps he'd uncover previously unknown knowledge from studying it. Yet, the moment he finally held the wand in hand, he almost doubted his own senses. System, this, an ancient wand asleep in slumber? This looks like nothing more than a filthy little tree root. Even has a sprout on it. Something like this wouldn't even get picked up off the ground.
Ding.
System verification confirms this indeed constitutes an ancient wand, freshly unearthed from soil. Though rather grimy, awakening it should restore its original properties. System, can you identify its previous owner? This is a reward granted upon surpassing level 10 in Wandcraft. It must have belonged to some highly renowned wizard. Its original owner certainly wasn't some nobody.
Ding.
Final identification requires manual awakening by the host. Xiaoji found the system somewhat unreliable. It seemed utterly clueless as to where it had dug this thing up. Shaking off the dirt clinging to the tree root, he tossed it into his ring of Nishira. He decided to study it thoroughly later. Right now, he was quite hungry. Exiting the grove, he climbed the hillside, exchanging greetings with Blackhorn, leader of the unicorns, before leisurely returning home. No one knew that moments ago he'd essentially impersonated the Dark Lord himself, terrifying an entire Death Eater into submission. This bionic teardrop isn't quite as powerful as I'd imagined, Xiaoji sighed in disappointment. The summoned clone couldn't even cook, useless outside of combat. He stored the teardrop away. Having returned late and ravenous, he felt rather disheartened. Evidently, he'd have to cook himself tonight. Dabi guessed Master Xiaoji must be hungry, so Dabi prepared him a midnight feast. Dabi recalls Master Xiaoji mentioning that grilled meat remains his ultimate midnight indulgence. Dabi emerged from the kitchen, proudly holding aloft a large tray. Upon it rested his very first dish learned under Xiaoji tutelage, cumin lamb skewers. Oh, thank you, Dabi. Xiaoji joyfully accepted the tray. Master Xiaoji returned so late. He must be famished. Naturally, he'd request Dabi prepare him dinner. Dabi gazed at him earnestly. Dabi, it's your off hours now. You're a free elf with your own schedule. I shouldn't disturb your rest. Xiaoji spoke gently. Oh, Dabi. Dabi would be utterly honored to prepare sustenance for his dear friend. Dabi chirped excitedly. Thank you, Dabi. Xiaoji patted his shoulder. So, plenty of meat here. Care to join me? Dabi would be thrilled to share this feast alongside his friend. Dabi cheerfully fetched utensils. Though we must stay quiet. Miss Vole and the others have retired already. Absolutely. Despite the late hour, dawn arrived swiftly. Xiaoji awoke early, gazing helplessly at the muddy tree root resting atop his desk. How on earth did one awaken such a thing? Clumps of earth adhered stubbornly to its surface. He attempted a cleaning charm, yet it failed to affect it at all. After prolonged scrutiny, he resolved to simply wash it under water, hoping to discern any unique features post-cleaning. Just as he lifted the twig, something caught his eye. Reaching out, he gently brushed aside the uppermost tender leaf, and there it was, a strikingly distinct insignia hidden beneath. Chapter 130. Xiaji, Slytherin is truly magnificent. All one could say was that this little green sprout had grown in a rather peculiar spot. Last night, due to poor lighting, Xiaji simply couldn't make anything out. Just as Xiaji was about to wash it off with water, he noticed this distinctive mark. It was a tiny green snake. Upon reflection, it seemed rather eerie to see such a lifelike snake symbol on a tree branch. A dormant, ancient wand. Xiaji stroked his smooth chin. It bears a snake symbol too, and was apparently unearthed by the system from somewhere. A flash of insight struck Xiaji. He suddenly recalled a wand that matched all these traits. Legend said this wand's power rivaled even the Elder Wand. It was the Serpenthood wand crafted by Salazar Slytherin himself, with a core made from a basilisk horn. For ages, it remained a treasured heirloom of the Gaunt family. This wand could be commanded to fall into slumber at will. Clearly, this wand perfectly matched all those characteristics. Item: unknown ancient wand. Wand body: unknown serpentwood. Core: unknown. Length: 13¼ inches. Flexibility: unknown. Status: asleep. Compatibility: unknown. Dark magic affinity: unknown. Though Xiaji saw a whole list of unknowns on the system panel, he knew this had to be Salazar Slytherin's wand. Xiaji remembered that this wand had always been a Gaunt family heirloom, until one day, Isolde Sayre stole it from her aunt Gormlaith Gaunt. When Gormlaith gave chase, Isolde used Parseltongue to command the wand into slumber. Since Isolde herself couldn't speak Parseltongue, she was unable to awaken it again. Thus, she and her husband buried the wand right at the entrance of Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Isolde Sayre and her husband James Stewart were, in fact, the founders of Ilvermorny. Somehow, a mysterious serpentwood tree sprouted exactly at the spot where the wand was buried. This tree couldn't be destroyed or cut down. Its leaves possessed powerful healing properties. Suddenly, Xiaji wondered, last night, had the system actually dug up the roots of that unknown serpentwood tree at Ilvermorny's entrance? A bit sheepish, Xiaji scratched his head. But really, this was all the system's doing. What did it have to do with upright, kind-hearted, sunny Xiaji? He joyfully picked up that filthy twig. If this truly was Salazar Slytherin's wand, then Parseltongue should be able to awaken it. But what exactly should he say? Just awaken? Xiaji tried speaking to the twig in Parseltongue. SSSSS. Awaken. Serpentwood wand. Yet the twig remained utterly unchanged. Feeling utterly foolish, Xiaji muttered, "Damn it, wrong command. Even Parseltongue doesn't work here." Then he recalled a passage from the original story, Tom Riddle's words summoning the basilisk. "Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest among the 4 founders of Hogwarts." Seems Slytherin was quite vain, huh? Xiaji resolved to try again using that exact phrasing. SSSSS. Awaken. Serpentwood wand. Treasured creation forged by Salazar Slytherin, the greatest of Hogwarts founders. Xiaji praised unblushingly. Sure enough, Slytherin clearly adored compliments. The twig gradually began transforming. Its mud vanished, its split ends reknit into one, forming an exquisitely carved serpent winding around the wand. That tiny green leaf also adhered to the serpent's body, transforming into a radiant green gemstone. In moments, the twig had fully transformed into an exquisitely beautiful wand. A wand crafted by Slytherin himself, no less. Its handle featured 2 intricately carved serpents entwined together. Between handle and body lay a hollowed green gemstone. The entire wand glowed with a soft dark green hue, and when infused with magic, the gemstone shone ever brighter. Xiaji seized this marvelous wand and gave it a casual flick. Whoosh! A melodic whooshing sound rang through the air. The wand felt perfect in his grip, though he had no idea what enhancements it might possess. Thus, he opened the system panel to inspect its attributes. Item: Serpentwood Wand. Wand body: Serpentwood. Core: Basilisk horn. Length: 13¼ inches. Flexibility: extremely flexible. Status: perfect. Requesting flowers: 0. Compatibility: 100%. Dark magic affinity: 200%. Special enhancements: spell power increased by 80%. Dark magic power increased by 100%. Magical energy consumption reduced by 70%. Casting speed boosted by 90%. Special abilities: can be commanded to sleep. Achieves perfect compatibility only with a Parseltongue-wielding master. Grants control over basilisks and nullifies their killing curse gaze. Staring at these outrageous stats and abilities, Xiaji could only marvel. Truly worthy of Slytherin, a 200% affinity for dark magic. Though this wand was absurdly powerful, it'd only unleash its full potential in the hands of a true descendant of Slytherin. Yet alas, no matter how meticulously Slytherin planned, he never accounted for a variable like Xiaji, a Gryffindor who spoke Parseltongue, and now fully earned this wand's trust. If Slytherin ever learned of this, he'd surely roll over in his grave. This wand seemed crafted precisely for Xiaji, fitting him down to the very last detail. For now, Xiaji had no intention of openly wielding it. Too conspicuous. Still, eventually, everyone would surely grow familiar with it. He placed the Serpentwood wand upon his desk and resumed his research. Thousands of years ago, Slytherin's mastery of wandcraft surpassed even Xiaji's own abilities, truly extraordinary, hence his vanity. Yet precisely because of this, the wand offered Xiaji invaluable insights. Days and nights passed as Xiaji studied tirelessly, utterly absorbed. He gleaned countless lessons from it. Most importantly, inspiration flooded him like a fountain. New magical formulas kept emerging, an intoxicating experience he couldn't resist. Had Cassandra Vole not burst in, yanking him by the ear to drag him away, he'd have continued another week straight. You haven't eaten or slept properly in days. Do you realize your body can't endure this? Cassandra chided, tapping Xiaji's forehead. Truthfully, Xiaji possessed exceptional physical resilience. His strength stat of 10 made him stronger than an ox. Even after days of exertion, he remained fully capable. But really, this obsession wasn't his fault. It was simply that Slytherin was far too magnificent.